Words of Wisdom is brought to you by Essentia Health and TV3 and LB Video Productions.
We have 3 living children. We started out with twin boys and lost both of them at childbirth. They lived, about 24 hours, I guess they lived. But the doctor didn't know she was going to have twins until one was born, and there was something else there. And, she was a good young mother. She went every month to the doctor, and if that would have happened, today, I'd have sued the hospital or the doctor. But back in those days, you didn't do that kind of stuff. So he didn't know that there was another. He didn't know she had twins, because there was no such thing as ultrasounds back in those days, and they can't. They don't want to use X-rays, so because that could affect the child. So he didn't know she was going to have twins. And our oldest boy then was born in the Urban Army Hospital in Fort Riley, Kansas. When I was in the military. I think he was, 9 pounds and some ounces. He was a big baby. We have a girl was next then, and she was born in Perm after I got out of the military. And then our youngest boy there was a pause in there. He wasn't born until 1967, 5 years later. And that was the biggest baby ever born in Perm. He weighed 12 pounds and 4 ounces.
And you had that
poor mother. 115-pound lady with a 12-pound baby. So, and then our oldest son was in the 4th grade, going to school in Burgess. Actually, they hauled the 4th grade kids down to Burgess and used that schoolhouse down there. And he was on a teeter-totter with a bigger kid, some great big kid. Not in school, come up behind that big kid that was teeter-tottering with our son. Our son was a little scrub, and that took that kid and slammed him down like that, and that big kid wasn't strong enough to hold him. So our son went up and over and come down and landed head first on the center teeter-totter bar and caved his skull in. And we took him to the doctor, and he said, nope. He said, I can't touch that. He said, the skull is caved in. So they sent him to Fargo. They took the pieces out of his head, skull, and sewed it back shut, because they said that there's a membrane that goes under your skin and under your skull, between the skull and the brain, and it had tore that membrane, so there was blood in his brain. And they said, we don't dare shut that up because there might be infection in that. So he went a whole year to school then with just that skin over that hole. And the kids would tease him, I'm going to poke your soft spot, And they'd let him wear a cap, and that helped. Then when school was out, then he went back to Fargo, and they put a plate in his head, and that plate was plastic. And the doctor said that new plastic now was good enough that eventually, if they cut into it, would actually bleed. It was that close to human bone. And when he was, it worked, fantastic. And he asked, then he said, when I get bigger, he was in 4th grade when this happened. And he says, as I grow, he says, that plate, will I get loose? He said, And the doctor said, no. He said, your head grows in all directions at the same time. So he said, that plate will never ever get loose. And when he was in about a sophomore, junior in high school, he decided he wanted to wrestle. And Mother and Dad went ape over that. And so we said, well, the easiest way to stop that was to take him back to Fargo to that doctor and have the doctor explain to him why he couldn't wrestle. And we took him back to the doctor, and the doctor examined him, and he says, if he wants to wrestle, let him wrestle. He says, that's as tough a spot on his head as... He wrestled for 1 year, and that he was satisfied that he had done what he could do. But he still, and that plastic, years ago they used to put stainless steel in their head. and that stainless steel was affected by temperature because a lot of people that had that plate in their head would end up with terrible headaches, and it never has bothered him because that plastic stays the same temperature as the rest of the body. Then it doesn't. And he survives quite well. He works for the Action Manufacturing up there in Detroit Lakes. He does the hiring and firing, and then he actually does some welding too. He's a master welder, a U.S. certified food grade welder. He can weld steel, stainless steel, and aluminum, all three. And when he was out of high school already and working for up there in Detroit Lakes, he would come down to Frazee and demonstrate to the Frazee class, the welding class, and what good welding was supposed to look like. And our youngest son said, "Oh," he said, "Dad, you got to see that." He said, "That weld is so smooth, it looks like he took his finger and smoothed it out." And then he went to Alaska, and he ended up with a wife she was a nurse working up there in Alaska, and eventually they got married. Then came back here and got married.
Do you have grandchildren at all?
Oh yes, we have about 11 grandchildren. Our oldest boy has got one daughter. Our daughter has got 2 sons, and our youngest son has got 8 kids. Youngest son's oldest son lives just next door here for us. And they have 2 little great-grandsons for us, and they come over. They was just over yesterday. They walk over here and with their mother, and they know where. It's comical. They come in the house and go right over. She's got 2 cookie jars over there. they know where Grandma's cookie jar is. They just started going to school. The oldest one is in, I think, 1st grade. The second one is, younger one is, I think, is still in kindergarten yet. But anyway, they're 2 little boys. Our oldest girl has got 2 boys, and they're both married, and they have, I think, 3 kids apiece. So we have about 11 great-grandchildren then, I think, 11 or 12 great-grandchildren. When I was in high school, I used to run the mile. I was too slow to run the fast races, but I was long-winded. And it was called Can-Am Games, Canadian-American Games here in Frazee, because we have a good track. And there was people from Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and at least two provinces of Canada. There was hundreds of people there. And since Frazee was sponsoring it, they said that every organization in Frazee should have somebody in the races. Dolores Smith was the FIAD teacher in Frazee, and she was part of the rescue squad. I said, well, I was the oldest one on the rescue squad. I said, I'll do something. And she said, well, all you got to do is run a 100-yard dash. And I said, no. I said, I'm too slow for that. But I said, I'm long-winded. And she said, well, they have a mile high-speed Olympic walk. I said, that I can do. And because I knew in the military I could keep up with anybody that was on, because we had force marchers there. And Dolores said that she had run 5 miles every day, and I went, if I was going to run, and there was many people on the track. So I got way in the back of the bunch. There was probably, 50 people or more out there in the track. And I got behind Dolores. And if you've ever run in a track, why, you can hear that thump, 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 the feet behind you, And I got behind her, and if she's run 5 miles every day, she'll just make a fool out of me if I try to pass her. And I kept pushing her, and she wouldn't speed up. So I passed her. And I started passing and passing and passing, and then I got behind the guy that had won last year. And it was just us two out in front then. And I got behind him, and I thought, well, he'll just make a fool out of me, if I try to pass him. So I started pushing him. I got right on his butt, and he didn't run any faster. So I passed him. And when I passed him, that Frazee crowd absolutely went, ape, Kenny, you're ahead, go. And I did, I won. And it was like the Olympics. You stood up on the boxes that were up there, and I stood on the top one and leaned over, and they put the the gold medal over my head. So I was pretty proud of that. I was 57 years old when I done that.
You were how old?
57. I was 57 years old when I done that.
If you were to look back at your life, what are you most proud of?
I suppose both of us were EMTs. If you look on the wall there, you'll see that there's a plaque there that she was an EMT for 30 years. And I was EMT for, 15 years or so. But then I started, when my youngest son started farming, father's son squabble, so I said, good, I'll retire and you farm. And my darling wife said, you better go find something to do. You're, getting squirrely sitting around here not doing nothing. So, and I had hauled, when I worked on that road construction crew, I had hauled the boss's cats around, so I knew how to run the semis, the big trucks. So I went to the Daggett truck line here in Frazee and applied for a job and got it immediately then. And after I drove for about a year there for Daggett, I trained new drivers. And I'd done that until I retired. Then I trained new drivers. I couldn't be on the rescue squad because I couldn't keep up my training. So that's why I had to retire from the rescue squad. Otherwise, I enjoyed that. It was challenging and rewarding. And if somebody has a heart attack and you bring him back to life, that's pretty rewarding. So, and we did that one that we did CPR on. For many, many years. You're the blankety blanks that brought me back to life. You should have let me die. Yeah, he was, I don't know if he suffered after that or not, but he would cuss, and it wasn't nice language that he used either. We were the SOBs that brought him back to life.
You mean he really was mad?
Oh yeah, he would cuss us out.
Why was he mad?
I don't know. He was... his own brother said he was a disagreeable person. But anyway, you don't know that when you have no choice. Whatever you got to do. So we got into that very innocently as far as the EMT work was concerned. We were both in on accidents before we were EMTs and didn't really know what to do. And I was president of the Frazee Alumni Association at that time. And we were sitting there talking one night at the Alumni Association, and we said, well, gee, it would sure be nice if we could find somebody to show us what to do if you're at an accident, because there was about 3 or 4 other guys that had been in on accidents. And we got a hold of Don Buchholz was his name. He would come and talk to us about that. And we opened the meeting up that night to the public, and we had about 35 or 36 people come that night. And Mr. Buchholz said, well, he said, you got enough people here to start a rescue squad if you want one, He said, and I train them. And so I was president, so I said, is there enough interest? Somebody make a motion to that we start one, Yeah, the motion was made, the motion was seconded, and we had a rescue squad started. And Buchholz said, well, he said, you guys have to have some money. He said, I can't supply, because he said, you got to have books to study by. He says, I can't afford to fly 35 people with books. So he says, you got to have some money. So we went out to Mr. Daggett, Vern Daggett at that time, and he, right off the bat, gave us $1,000 to buy books with. And that got us started. And we had... I think out of the 36, I think we had 35 people that were part of the rescue squad. Oh. And it's been very successful. We would have a pancake breakfast, which would last from breakfast till after dinner, and we pancake and sausage. And we made pretty good money on that. And then somebody came up with the idea we should have a pig roast. And we put signs out on number 10, pig roast that away, and it was very successful. And it kept getting more and more. And the last year we had 2 300-pound sows barbecued and got rid of it all. Oh, it was, people would come from, because we had the two guys that was doing the barbecue and knew what they were doing.
Right.
And it was a money-making deal. And then we had a guy, I think it was on, Heideland Lake or Cotton Lake, one of the two, in the middle of wintertime. It was somebody had cut a fish house hole, out of the ice, and legally you're supposed to put that chunk of ice under the ice, and he put it on top. And this guy come along with a snowmobile and run into that, and off he went. And somebody seen him laying out there, and they called in, and, hey, there's a guy laying out there on the ice, and he ain't moving. And the Frazee Rescue went out and got him and hauled him in, and got him all patched, into the hospital and took care of. And a little over a year later, we got a telephone call from him. And he said, I'm the guy that you rescued out there on the lake. He said, I'd like to make a donation to your club. And he said, what do you need? And what do you tell somebody like that? Do you need $5 or do you need $100? And we said, well, it's not really for us to say what we need if you're going to donate, And he said, do you need a new ambulance? And then the dog, holy smokers, this is not normal. And we had just bought a new one, and we said, no, we didn't really need a new ambulance. And he said, well, I'm going to send you a check. And he said, I want it to be anonymous. He said, I don't want nobody to know who it was. And check come up for $10,000. Yeah, that was, rocks your mind how, he was appreciative of what we had done. So, you had the guy that cussed you for saving him, and the guy that gave you $10,000 for saving him. So it was from one extreme to the other. Very interesting. Yeah, it was probably, I would say that was probably my most rewarding thing that I got into. And a lot of the stuff I did, the training, when I trained new drivers, that was challenging, very challenging, because you were out. I went all over the United States and Canada. I hauled down to Mexico, never got across the border, because that was a different deal going across into Mexico. But Canada, I hauled lots of stuff in and out of Canada, and I took trainees up into Canada as far as that goes.
Our show is called Words of Wisdom. Do you have any wisdom you'd like to share?
Well, I suppose that there would be, like my son told his kids. He said that my dad always said to do as the best you can do out of whatever you're told to do. Don't slough off. Try to do a good job, no matter what the job. If it's a little job or a big job, do a good job and try. If you slough off, once you start that's hard to quit. Whatever I did, I tried to do a good job on, and it's a lot easier to do a good job and get some credit for it than to do a bad job and catch heck for it.
Essentia Health, our presenting sponsor, is proud to bring you Words of Wisdom. And TV3 and LB Video Productions.